Welcome to Children's Cancer Research Fund, DreamStream 2020. We would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support of the Dream Fund: Optum, United Health Group, Hanson Family Foundation, Park Chrysler Jeep, Warrior Manufacturing, Polaris, Minnesota Vikings, Grant Thornton, and Verite Group. And now, the Chief Executive Officer of Children's Cancer Research Fund, John Hallberg.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the virtual version of Dream 2020. I'm John Hallberg, CEO of Children's Cancer Research Fund, and as you can see, I'm speaking to you from my home. This isn't how we'd planned Dream to look, but when the coronavirus became a pandemic, we knew we wouldn't be able to see you all in person. I want you to know that all of us at CCRF are thinking of you and hoping that your families are safe and healthy. Our goal for this broadcast is to share some inspiring stories and show you the impact you make by supporting our mission. Tonight, you'll hear from researchers who continue their important work even when the spotlight is elsewhere. You'll also hear about our friend Nate, who is battling osteosarcoma and just wants things to be better for the kids diagnosed after him. I think you'll be truly touched and inspired by their stories. These last few weeks, I've been thinking about all of our pediatric cancer families. Families like Nate's, who already know what it's like to have life turned upside down overnight. They know what it's like when good health is not a guarantee. And they practice social distancing during their child's treatment before the rest of us knew what that was. Kids fighting cancer are an especially vulnerable group right now, because the treatments they receive can knock out their immune system. Even kids who have survived childhood cancer can be immunocompromised, sometimes for the rest of their lives. But better options are on the horizon, treatments that save lives and leave survivors whole and healthy. And every one of you watching right now has the power to make those treatments and cures a reality. When all of our lives changed last month, I reached out to some of the incredible researchers at the University of Minnesota. They made one thing clear: no matter what, they are not going to stop fighting for kids with cancer. One researcher told us, "We may not be on the front page, but know that we're still here working behind the scenes for these kids." We're so glad you joined us tonight, and we hope you'll continue supporting us in the fight against childhood cancer. Now, I'll hand it off to our Dream 2020 co-chairs, Megan Lindahl Goodrich and Jane Katie Pirtle.
Thanks, John, and hello, everyone. I'm also joining you from home. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been helping with Children's Cancer Research Fund's annual gala since I was a teenager. When I signed on to co-chair Dream 2020 with my friend Megan, I never imagined it would be quite like this, but here we are. When my mom, Tony Katie, chaired this event 25 years ago, I was impressed by her ability to bring so many of her friends together in support of the same cause. Back then, it was called Dawn of a Dream because we were just starting to see hope peeking over the horizon for kids with cancer. I am proud to represent the next generation of families supporting CCRF. Today, 25 years later, I'm inspired by the changes I've seen. Every time I talk to Dr. John Wagner or other doctors at the University of Minnesota Children's Hospital, I feel like we're so close to achieving our dream of a world without childhood cancer. Treatments are getting better and more children are becoming survivors. My dad's sister died of leukemia when she was 11. Today, thanks to the research funded by CCRF, her cancer could have been cured. This success is because for 38 years, my family, Megan's family, and so many of you watching kept this work moving forward. CCRF is known as the organization with a heart because its supporters are truly a family joined in the fight against childhood cancer. For 38 years, we haven't taken our foot off the gas. We can't let up now. I know it's been hard to focus and get perspective over the past 2 months. If anything, I have come to appreciate what patients in isolation are experiencing. These families need our help now more than ever. We're so close, and we can't let this pandemic slow our progress. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Your support means the world to me and my family. Now I'll pass it off to my good friend and co-chair, Megan Lindahl Goodrich.
Thank you, Jane. That was beautiful. Jane's family and mine have been close for years, and it's been such a blessing to plan this event with her. My mom was the co-chair of Dawn of a Dream in 1996, and I can remember helping set tables at the Minneapolis Convention Center. This year certainly feels a little different. I didn't have to get dressed up or even leave my house. We know this isn't the kind of event you're used to, but thanks for sticking with us anyway. I really got involved in the world of childhood cancer in my 20s, when I volunteered on the bone marrow transplant floor at the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. I'll never forget the two people I was paired with, Matthew and Janelle. Meeting Matthew and Janelle and their families made a huge impression on me. I remember taking Matthew's brothers fishing at my parents' house so his parents could have some time alone with Matthew. I remember the exact setup of Janelle's room, and to this day can still picture her parents' faces. 20 plus years ago, families came from all over the country to be treated at the U. Our local institution continues to be a leader and attract families from all around the nation. Our goal back then was the same as it is today, to support researchers looking for better treatments and cures for kids with cancer. But today, because of you, we are so much closer. I'm so grateful you are with us in this fight. Back in February, we had the opportunity to hear from some incredible researchers at the University of Minnesota and from Nate, whose story I've had the privilege of following the last few months. Nate has osteosarcoma. As you'll see, researchers have been able to make huge advancements on this type of cancer thanks to your generosity. Here are their stories.
Partway through my residency, had the privilege of working in pediatric oncology and went, this is the perfect mix of research, science, and the ability to make a difference in someone's life, the ability to take science from what I say bench to bedside and back and really impact not only on the science side someone's life, but on the personal side.
Osteosarcoma is proven to be particularly challenging to treat and to find novel therapies that are effective. As a matter of fact, we've been, treating osteosarcoma with the same chemotherapy today as we were back in the 1970s.
In osteosarcoma, the initiating alterations are actually ones that induce basically chaos in the genome, and they evolve the ability to metastasize. And that's really the aspect of osteosarcoma that leads to lots of mortality, is when the disease becomes metastatic and spreads to other organs, particularly the lungs.
These diseases may be rare, but collectively rare diseases, are not rare when in total together. For a patient's family, hearing the word rare doesn't offer any consolation at all. It's the most important, it's the center of your world.
I would love to be able to say, we have this therapy that we know will give you a chance at a cure, but we also now have this new therapy that we think could be even better, and be able to offer them a choice and an option, which right now we don't have.
To meet these families and meet these patients, and sometimes you become friends on Facebook or social media, and you see day to day, you see struggles, you see updates, and then when there is a bad outcome, it's devastating.
For me, probably one of the hardest things is walking into a patient's room and saying, the cancer is back. That will never get easy for me, ever.
We all feel loss and pain, but we all know deep down that what we're trying to do at every step is do something to improve the life of that individual and also for generations to come.
Without Children's Cancer Research Fund, I think there's a really good chance that we wouldn't have had the funding to do the kind of research that we've been able to do at the University of Minnesota.
A number of the grants we've gotten from CCRF have led to much larger, substantial national level funding. For instance, our work on engineering natural killer cells for cancer, we ended up getting a grant from NIH for over $10 million, and that was all based on one grant from CCRF for $100,000. And so you can see how that initial seed money can multiply drastically once that idea really comes to fruition.
The field moves so fast, and we're constantly learning new things, and so having this funding available in a relatively short time frame can really get things moving.
Children's Cancer Research Fund was also the catalyst behind our osteosarcoma program through the Zach Sobiak Fund. We would not have the core of researchers and scientists and dedicated effort that led literally in the last 5 years from an idea to a national clinical trial for patients with osteosarcoma.
Cells in a dish are only going to tell you so much, and you need to, and I think, you talk to patient families and they would agree, like, you've got to get these therapies into trials and give them a trial. That's really the only way you'll know.
By partnering in research, by participating in clinical trials, by giving back, it's the way we have actually made progress in pediatric cancer care, treatment, and survival rate.
I think it's patients like Nate and families like the Priggies that really push us to be our best and to improve and to continue to do better.
I'm Mike. This is my wife, Robin, and we have 3 kids, Nathan, Ella, and Anna.
My name is Nathan, and I'm 17 years old.
Before 2019, we both worked full-time jobs. We had a kid in each school system, so one in elementary, one in junior high, one in senior high, which kept things interesting. Nate really loves playing guitar, so he was taking guitar lessons.
I've been playing guitar for 6 or 7 years now. My favorite artists to play are Sublime and Metallica. When this first all happened, I was actually standing right here in this room, and I just got a really sharp pain in my left side, and it hurt a lot. I was alarmed immediately.
The way he described it, I didn't know if he had somehow bruised a rib, took an x-ray, said everything looks fine. So they sent us to a dermatologist. He sent us to the neurologist. The neurologist did a CT scan and said, no, nothing's there.
Eventually developed to a point where I was sitting in my room, I was playing video games with one of my friends, and I was feeling my side, and I felt a bump there, so I went and looked in my mirror, and I saw that, and I went downstairs and told my mom and dad, hey, we need to get this checked out pretty quick.
And so the next day, I called to bring him into his primary.
The initial reaction by the doctor was a little scary for us.
They didn't want to panic you, but in my experience, the less they say, the more worried they are.
I always had the thought in the back of my head that, yeah, this is probably pretty bad. I don't know what it is, but it's probably pretty bad.
And then they said, we're gonna send him in for a CT scan right now, wherever we can get you in soonest.
I can bring the clouds and rain, but you'll still have a sunny day. The thunder never scared you anyway, 'cause you've got lightning in your heart.
And then when we saw the images, it was osteosarcoma. You could see each rib, and you could see the ribs that had the cancer in it.
Yeah.
Just in pieces.
Now looking back on it, I was in a lot of pain, a lot. I can't believe I functioned as well as I did those months that I was in that pain.
I made you go to school. I made you clean your room. And my goodness, your ribs are falling apart.
The drive home was hard, knowing we were going to have to tell his sisters.
I have to look at my family and, tell my little sisters, hey, I might die in a year. That's really hard. That's really difficult.
Even if I feel the cold, you can make the ice unfold. You showed me that the torch you hold was burning from the start.
I think the surprising thing about osteosarcoma was just the fact that the baseline upfront treatment hasn't changed in 30, 40 years.
So my treatment at the start was chemo, and then after that I had surgery. That surgery involved taking out multiple ribs and part of my spine. If it's touched anything in your body, whatever it's touched has to be taken out. I had to relearn to walk. I did a lot of PT, and it hurt a ton.
The pediatric cancer world, it's the last place you want to be, but it's some of the best people I've ever met. You know, from the parents to the doctors to the nurses. I wish I'd never met them. But I'm glad I know that they're there. And it makes going through this less scary.
We actually had a music therapist at the hospital. He came in and talked to me every once in a while. He was a really cool guy. Listening to music, playing my guitar, it just kind of helped pass the time and get my mind off stuff that was going on around me.
He has said before that he did not want this diagnosis to define him.
I chose to kind of take a optimistic outlook on everything, because otherwise I think I'd mentally destroy myself. My goal was fix this and then keep moving on with life the same way I was before.
Oh, volcanoes erupt. Some doors open, then shut. When I've got a half-empty cup, you fill it back up. Oh, because you never ever give up, no.
These researchers and these doctors want it just as much as the parents do. And when they are given a small chunk of extra funding, they can run for miles with it.
The hope or the dream is that 10 years from now, they have those targeted therapies, not have the harsh impacts of a chemotherapy, and be able to hopefully have better results for our children that deal with this in the future.
Because you never ever give up. Ooh, yeah, you never ever give up.
I think CCRF is very important in the stuff they provide and the stuff they're doing for research. I'd pay a ton of money just to make sure no one has to go through this again. I'd work for 1,000 years for that. If I had to go through it one more time to someone else, wouldn't I do it? Like, if just one of those could have been prevented, that would be incredible.
You never ever give up. Oh.
Thank you so much to the researchers at the University of Minnesota and the Prigge family for those inspiring messages. As Megan mentioned, those interviews were filmed in February, and unfortunately since then, Nate found out his cancer has returned and is growing on his spine. This was heartbreaking news for all of us. Nate has decided to go forward with chemotherapy and radiation to beat back these tumors. Nate, please know that we're all thinking about you and praying for you. One of the things that inspires me most about Nate is his selflessness. He's focused on making sure no child who is diagnosed after him has to go through what he's going through. He wants something better for them, and that's why we're all here. We're joined today by Dr. Beau Webber, one of the researchers you saw in the video. Dr. Webber, whose work has been funded by DREAM and CCRF, is working to engineer immune cells to find and attack osteosarcoma cells, leaving the rest of a child's body unharmed. He's so confident in the potential for this kind of treatment that he's not afraid to use a word we don't hear every day in the cancer world: cure. Here's Dr. Beau Webber.
Thanks so much, John, and thanks to all of you for watching and supporting CCRF. John's right. We don't hear the word cure much in the childhood cancer world, and there's a reason for that. Childhood cancers, particularly osteosarcoma, are very stubborn. Surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy often aren't enough. And in cases like Nate's, we may think it's gone, but a few cells escape and the cancer comes creeping back. Right now, we don't have anything that we can confidently call a cure for this kind of cancer. But with your support, that could change. Over the past year, my colleague and I, Dr. Brandon Moriarty, have started to develop a therapeutic approach that uses a child's own immune cells instead of chemotherapy or radiation. The way this works is we first engineer specific immune cells with a receptor that programs them to recognize osteosarcoma cells. This allows the immune cells to recognize and kill every cancer cell, leaving no trace. This would mean families like Nate's wouldn't have to worry about a surgeon that wasn't able to remove the whole tumor. They wouldn't have to go through months of harsh chemotherapy that can't guarantee every cell will be gone. And we've seen this kind of treatment be successful before. Clinical trials for some blood cancers have had response rates of 80 to 90% for patients who had exhausted every other option. And now there are a handful of successful examples in much harder to treat solid tumors. That's the kind of success we could be looking at. I don't say this every day, but it's really hard to overstate the potential here. Cure isn't a word I throw around, and it's not a word that I use lightly. But with our project, that is the goal. The goal is no chemo, no radiation, no lifelong side effects. The patient would experience an immune reaction while the cells do their job, and then the cancer would be gone. Nate says he wishes no other kid will have to go through what he went through. This is what we're trying to make possible. I want to thank all of you for watching and for supporting CCRF through the Dream Fund. It is very difficult to get funding to start projects like this one. A lot of other funding sources lean towards research that yields incremental advance. But when you give to the Dream Fund, you're truly jump-starting novel research like ours, giving us a better chance to make a huge leap forward. If you believe in this type of work and if you want to improve outcomes for kids like Nate, please give to the Dream Fund. Your support lets us swing for the fences and transform how kids with cancer are treated. And it gives us real hope that one day we can confidently use the word cure.
Thanks, Dr. Webber, for all that you do and for giving hope to cancer families. Dr. Webber is right. Your gifts to the Dream Fund make it possible for bold researchers to keep groundbreaking ideas moving forward. Every $100,000 raised through Dream funds one promising new idea. I know we've all been living in a much different world these past few months, but these researchers aren't stopping, and kids with cancer still need our help. I've been so inspired by the acts of kindness and generosity I've seen during this difficult time. I hope you've seen how your gift to the Dream Fund will truly impact families like Nate's. On behalf of Jane, Megan, and the entire team at CCRF, thank you for joining us.